Welcome, welcome.
It's a good day around here.
It is. Can you hear the smile in my voice? Because we're talking to two people today that are in one of my love languages, which is books. Getting kids excited about reading. And we have two teachers on the podcast today. This is a first for us. I am so excited about what they are doing to bridge the literacy gap in their community with this brilliant and innovative nonprofit that they have created. And it's their side hustle.
Yeah.
I mean, these teachers, I want everyone who, wherever you are, to picture two individuals who are literally on their planning break. They are literally on their lunch break right now. They have kids waiting on them in the next 40 minutes to come back into the classroom. And I am just geeking out over the fact that we are going to talk about this brilliant nonprofit that's in Jinx, America, up near Tulsa, called Gaining Ground Literacy. And it was started by these incredible people who have this passion, Lisa Shotts and Kirby Mackenzie. And the way that we found them was when we launched, I just want to say this real quickly because I think it bears merit to everyone who's listening who is a little nonprofit. Kirby's husband reached out to me and said, I don't know if you would be interested, but this is a really little nonprofit, but it's sensational, but I don't know if it's too small for you. Folks, there is no nonprofit that is too small for what we are trying to leverage and celebrate and really give inspiration to everybody who's listening. So Lisa is an elementary school teacher during the day, and she's the executive director of Gaining Ground the rest of the time. She has this passion for literacy and finding ways to just bridge the inequities of education for children that really are just in underserved areas. So this has been her lifelong dream, and she has, quotes, the dream team who has kind of encircled her and created a board and has just made this dream a reality. So Lisa, so excited that you are here. Kirby is an elementary school librarian.
Woo-woo.
Side note, that would be my job. Like, I would love for that to be my job. Oh my gosh, I would be in a beanbag chair reading Goodnight Moon to whoever would listen. She has 9 years of teaching, and she just has this passion for summer reading, teaching. She has an emphasis on social justice, which you know she's my gal, and just getting kids access to great books. So she's just been working with Gaining Ground to marry all of her passions and just wants to see the goodness come out as kids just learn to have this love of reading. So I'll quit talking, ladies, because you're on your planning period and we want to know about Gaining Ground. Welcome to our show.
Thank you.
Oh, we're so excited. Oh, thank you. Okay, so we want I'm going to start with Lisa. Lisa, tell us a little bit about Gaining Ground and how this came to be, your mission. We're so excited. Go for it.
Wow. Well, Kirby and I taught together in the same school. And so we noticed a trend. I was an instructional coach, so I worked with teachers. And so we studied data. So every summer, our kiddos would go home and they would be at a certain level of reading, and they would come back. And of course, they had the dreaded summer slide. So we developed a plan just out of my husband's like 1975 trooper. We threw library books in the back of it. And we set a plan for that summer to go to all of our communities. So we had a neighborhood, we had a mobile home community, we had multiple apartments. So we set up schedules and we went out. Honestly, the first summer, we didn't have tons of kids, but what we did start seeing is the excitement that was building over us coming every week. So move forward a year, we slowly got a grant, and we're now using the school van. And what happened that summer was we kept data. And so we had ending reading levels in May, and then we would do our summer book deliveries, and we would come back in March or in August and look at levels again. And what was happening is the kids that came to our bus or our van at the time did not slide back. So if we have data saying, oh, if they visited us 5 or more times, they didn't slide, and most of them grew as readers.
Wow.
So we just went, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So through a series of fortunate events, Ellen DeGeneres got a hold of Kirby and gave our school a van, as a mobile van. It was a big deal. If you haven't watched the videos, everybody should watch, Google Kirby Mackenzie and Ellen DeGeneres. And so we got more funding, and the data just kept supporting itself. It just, over and over, every summer, our kids were growing as readers if they were visiting our bus. So then we decided, this works. This is amazing. And we've got to spread the joy. We've got to spread the secret. And so we developed Gaining Ground, and we ended up with, I think we started with 3 partner schools. And again, we bought a school bus, and we converted it into a library, and that lives in my driveway every day.
Your neighbors are loving it.
That's awesome.
My neighbors love it. And so what we do is we partner with schools, and we have 5 schools that we partner with. We serve about 1,300 kids. And so that's kind of the history of Gaining Ground. And we have lots of programs, but I'm sure we'll get into that. And yeah, that's the history.
I mean, if you go on the Gaining Ground website, which I did, and I sent it to my sister, who is my favorite person in the world, who is also a 2nd grade teacher and has huge passion for literacy. And I mean, there's a picture of a kid with a popsicle in his hand and like the proudest look on his face holding a book. And I text her this, and she said, "Oh my gosh, they're about to get all my money. I've found my people." And I mean, it is just so wholesome and fantastic. And I just love that you didn't feel like you could just sit in your school and do this as they were coming to you once, for 1 hour a week or whatever the time frame is. It's like you took the mission and said, we're going to meet these kids where they are, and they don't know that they need us, but they need us. And so I just think it's really fantastic. So bravo.
And I love that, we're not data geeks in general, but I love that you're using data because it's so important to justify. I mean, it's such a feel-good story, but the fact that you can also show this meaningful growth that's happened for kids, it's just, man, it just becomes irresistible, as a cause. So I'd love, Kirby, if you want to fill in some of the dots of your part of the story, how you got connected and whatnot.
Yeah. So like Lisa said, we taught together. And so when I was moving from being a 5th grade classroom teacher, moving into the library, that was kind of the first summer that Lisa, the genius, was like, because I was like, oh, what if we just kept the school library open all summer and the kids can still get books, and maybe that'll help prevent summer slide. But the reality for so many of our families is getting up to the school during the day in the summer is not a reality. Part of the thing at our old building was a lot of our kids lived miles from the school. And so it wasn't a school where everybody could walk, and a lot of our families didn't have a vehicle that they owned. A lot of our families work, multiple jobs. And so we were like, we can keep the library open all day, and that's not going to meet kids where they're at. And so that was when the book delivery kind of initial program was born. And so we were like, we had this whole dream. We were like trying to convince the district that we needed to buy an ice cream truck, like all of these things. And we were like, we have goals, and we already, like, both of us are big dreamers, bigger, better, always, like, go get them. And we can wait around until it can be an ice cream truck and until it can be all of these funders giving us books. Or we can just load up Mr. Shotts's old Isuzu Trooper, and we can put a cooler full of popsicles and buckets of library books and a sound system, and we can just go make our own situation happen. We don't have to wait for any funding. We don't have to wait for anything to happen. And then because we did that, it's been able to, every year, it blows us away. Like, it gets bigger and better every year. And our minds get blown every year at the number of kids that we're able to impact. But I love that you both caught on, or everybody caught on to the piece where we talked about, like, this, not only is the data showing that from like a summer slide standpoint, this works, quote unquote, but also the stories and the fifth grade siblings carrying the diapered sibling on their hip to go get a board book, and the families that are running to the bus, and the kids who have been waiting at the, you know, mobile home mailboxes in the heat, sweating it out, waiting for us for however long, like all of those things as well. We were like, this is too magical for only our kids to get to benefit this. Like, every kid in Tulsa deserves this. Every kid in the world deserves this. Like, it would be very easy for us to just stay in our one little school building, but this is magic. Like, we have found a cure to something, and we have to like go get it to the people. And so that is why Lisa put all of the blood, sweat, and tears into like becoming a 501c3, making Gaining Ground its own little engine that could entity, so that we could go out and so that we could adopt other, or not adopt, but partner with other schools too, is because it was too fabulous for it to only impact 600 kids.
Everyone noticed that the librarian just used a little engine that could analogy, and what she was saying, of course she did. Fantastic. I mean, what I visualized when I started to look into what you were doing is I went back to the 80s, that's how old I am, and the 90s. I mean, I was actually born in the 70s. And I think about my elementary experience, and I think about what were the hallmarks of the elementary experience. What were the days of the year that were the greatest days of the year? And in my mind, the greatest day of the year was when the Scholastic books came and you got to go shopping. And it was like cat posters and books that are everywhere.
Fuzzy pens.
And it's like I just would sit there and read these books that, of course, my mom only sent so much money, so I had to pick, which is good. But I just think they have taken the Scholastic Book Fair on wheels, and they have gone out into the community, and they have taken the price point completely out of it, thanks to the generosity of donors and philanthropy, and they have enabled anyone to have that experience. And that is what I think is so amazing. Okay, Kirby's
Becky.
geeking out. Go. Someone's calling.
Can we take a caller? We have a
Scholastic
caller.
Book Fair, somebody needs me. You speaking about Scholastic Book Fairs, do you even know yet that like one of the pillars of what we do? Are you ready? Are you ready for me to tell?
I'm
As
like
we
up
grew
on my sit.
bigger and better, as we grew bigger and better every year, one of the things that we added to our programming is that every single kid at every single one of our partner schools in May, every school year, gets to come to a Scholastic Book Fair, and they get to choose 10 books to take home and keep forever for free.
Wow.
Did you even know that part?
No, we didn't
Of
know
course
that
I
part.
didn't know that part. Of course it just keeps getting better and better, like a children's book. You keep reading, just gets better and better. I'm like, funders, if you are out there listening right now, we need an angel donor to come in here and make this a reality for Gaining Ground forever. It's just so wholesome. So one of the questions I have for you two is, how do you get your message out to your audience who is maybe unaware of your existence? Maybe they're not unaware if they're standing out in the heat, you know, at the mailbox waiting for you. But how do you let them know in the summer, we're coming? Where do you know? Are you looking at data to figure out where you need to be? I mean, I think that's a question people will be asking at home is, how do you target your audience, and how do you get that message out there in a way that they can get it?
Right.
Lisa.
So we're a little different. We're not like we have a very set pattern, and that pattern is that we partner with schools. So all of the schools that we partner with are in high needs areas and are literally book deserts. And so the 5 schools that we have, we set up a route before the summer begins, and every student has that route and the times that we're going to be at the book bus stop. And so it's pre-planned. It is, we ran 5 routes to about, I think we stopped like 75 times a week last summer.
Gosh.
Or not last summer, the summer before. And so yes, the students know exactly where we're going to be. They hear the loud music. They come running down the street at us. Our book bus has a slide out of the back of it. And so the kids come on and stop, and they slide out the back with their new books and grab a popsicle. So we feel that it's very important to work side by side with our partner schools to make sure that we're delivering the services that they need and that they want.
It's an ice cream truck. I mean, you need a little bell or something on the top, and kids come running for books rather than,
I can imagine
the
it's just
Mickey Mouse
an
ice
event.
cream.
You know, when the ice cream truck rolls through this neighborhood, I tell you, my house gets very rowdy. So I can only imagine a slide-induced library on wheels that you can check out books. Wow. Okay. There's so many things that I want to hear about. I would love for you. Could you just kind of break down what the other programs are? Just, I know we've talked about the book piece at the bus. What else? What other components are there happening?
Kirby, you want to take that?
Okay, so the book fair is a big piece of it,
Right.
because we take the bus out, and that's a big piece, but our kind of kickoff for every summer, and with every partner school, we do some sort of like family literacy night or summer reading kickoff or whatever. Some schools call it Lit Fest, some schools call it Summer Slam, like whatever it is. And then that evening is when they all get to take home their 10 books that they chose from the book fair. And so that's like the kickoff celebration. And then in their, packet of goodies that they get that night is when, we make sure they have the bus schedule again. We make sure they know where their community's stop is going to be, what day we're going to be there. Advertise. One year we made a music video. It's also on YouTube. I mean, you can check it out. But
we will link it in the show notes. Please send it to us. Thank you.
And so we do a lot of advertising and making sure they know. And so we have the book fair, the summer reading, the book bus, but then also we have added a whole summer literacy camp that's like, I mean, if you didn't know to call it summer literacy camp, it might be like summer school or like a tutoring program, but it's like more fun than that. And it's very like social justice driven, where the kids that are in the program come together with a certified teacher to look at a community problem, and they kind of spend the whole summer working to fix that problem and researching and learning and just kind of developing themselves as leaders. And then we have also expanded that same idea of the summer literacy camp into after school programs as well. And Shotts can tell you some amazing stories from after school programs.
Shotts.
Yeah, can we go ahead and convert and start calling Lisa Shotts?
We've known each other for 20 minutes, so you are now Shotts to us. So yes, give us. We love stories on the show, so please tell us a story from that if you can think of one that stands out.
Yes. So this summer, of course, virtually, we did some in-person camp, but most of our camp was virtual. We had one parent that texted us and said that at the beginning of the summer, her daughter was depressed, not interacting with the family, not feeling like she had a purpose. And once she started meeting one-on-one and in small groups with her literacy camp teacher, it totally turned her around and said that she now joins the family. She is excited to learn whatever they're learning in camp at that moment. But the parent ended with, it is amazing what one-on-one human contact can do for someone. And so it's those kinds of stories. And it's just, we have several of those kinds of stories where it just makes a difference. Yes, we are building literacy skills, but more importantly, we're building relationships and a community of learners, readers, and leaders.
Goodness. Well, Shotts, I wonder, I'm an entrepreneur mindset. I love that I can call you that. Entrepreneur mindset, love nonprofits, love that you turned your passion into a nonprofit and really just put legs around it. Could you kind of give some advice? I mean, there's people listening that have something on their hearts. They see a need, or like, what Kirby said, you've got the cure. You're like sitting on this cure. We want to do something about it. What steps did you take, and what's some advice that you would give to somebody that wants to start a nonprofit for their passion?
Well, don't wait for anyone else. I think that's my number one. Don't wait for somebody to give you money. Don't wait for someone to give. You just have to follow your passion and take small steps. We took a very small step that first year. I mean, just get your 501c3. And everybody made it sound like it was such a big deal to do, and it really wasn't hard. And so
you can do it, people.
I feel like people are just scared of not only the paperwork, but the responsibility of it. And it's no big deal. Just follow your passion and take that first step forward.
Oh, it's just so good. I mean, the thing that I love about this so much is if you are someone who believes that education is the best way to break the poverty cycle, to me, if we talk about that a lot with making sure that kids go to college, but to me, it's just so much earlier than that. And it's like if you can foster this lifelong love of reading. I mean, we have a thing that we say in our house. I always ask my girls who are the smartest people in the world, and they always tell me people who read books, because that is how you expand your vocabulary. It is how you can be creative. It is how you expand your worldview. So I just think what you are doing is massively important. I want to give all the parents, or anyone, if you're not a parent, a little shout out for a book that's one of my favorites called Reading Aloud to Your Kids, because it's so fantastic and talks about like the gains that they can have intellectually just by having books around or reading out loud even when they're playing or something. So I just think you have taken this, what was probably a theory and a passion and a theory, and you have automated it in this beautiful way, and I just commend you both. And I think it would be not bold and not too bold for me to say you would love people to steal your idea and replicate it in the communities wherever they are. People, we have the cure here. We need to do something about these book deserts with kids, and this is such a simple, joyful way to do that. So I would love it. You shared a great story, Shotts. Love saying that. Going to keep saying it. That'll be our hashtag for the show. Kirby, I wonder if there's a moment that has stood out to you, maybe aside from Ellen DeGeneres giving you a bus, maybe something about an interaction with a child where you really felt like you were in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing.
This is our favorite thing to talk about, so we could go on. There are stories. There are so many good ones. I love any time that a kid comes through the book fair and, they're doing this very exciting thing. And when we get to make the announcement to a class of kids, and they all know what the book fair is. And a lot of them, have never been able to go into a book fair and just pick out anything they wanted, and so every year in May, I'm like, I'm the luckiest person in the whole world that I get paid to go in here and tell this class of kids, like, hey guys, there's a surprise book fair at your school. And all of the kids are like, I didn't bring my money. I don't have any money. And they start, like, you can start seeing
the panic
rise. Yeah. And then I'm like, oh, but you don't need money today because the book fair that we have here today is free. And then they all look at me like confused and crazy. And I'm like, oh, and not only do you get to go pick one book, not two books, not three books, but you get to go into that book fair and you get to choose 10 books. And they like scream, they cry. It's like, it's Oprah. I mean,
it's Publishers Clearinghouse. We need to give her like a check and some balloons. We're very anti-big check, but still, maybe in this, it could work.
And I know a lot of people are probably like 10 books is insane. That's so much money. But we have a deal with Scholastic where if you do X number of book fairs in the year, your third book fair is buy one, get one free. So they're already buy one, get one free. So we're getting the kids 10 for the price of 5. And then we have a price point that like they only send us books that are that price or below so that the kids are not restricted in any way. It's like you get to pick whatever you see that you want. And so getting to tell them about that is always just like so dreamy, and their reactions and their gratitude. But also when they go into the book fair and they're choosing and they're having a hard time and they're narrowing it down, but then they're like, oh, but I got this one from my baby brother, or oh, I chose this one because my sister loves, Owl Diaries, or I chose this one because my baby cousin he loves puppies. And you're like, you little children, like they chose,
they get it.
They were given this great thing and they're choosing to like share that love and pass it on and like give it to someone else. And it's so
philanthropy.
That's what philanthropy is. That's it. Planting those seeds early.
Philanthropy at elementary school. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if you would talk a little bit about how you are fundraising for this, and if there's been some moments when philanthropy has really allowed you, to go further. Shotts has got feedback. I see it on your face.
She gave us a whoo.
I will say, the pandemic has really changed gaining ground in many ways. You know, we focus on community and relationships and getting those kids to know themselves as readers, and not just the mechanics of reading, which they get all day at school, but we want them to be readers. We want them to cry when Ruby dies, and I'm crying now, in The One and Only Ivan, and get upset.
Gosh, you had to bring up The One and Only Ivan.
When Augie gets upset in Wonder. We want that. That's what our goal is. But because of the pandemic, we didn't get our bus out. We couldn't get kids on the bus. So the George Kaiser Family Foundation just was amazingly generous. And we just wrote a very short proposal. We did it a week after all schools closed down. We said, we got to do something. And so we wrote a quick proposal, told them our idea, and they funded it fully. And what they funded was, we were able to choose for almost 1,400 children across the city of Tulsa. And we did it through schools. We did it through just community organizations, and people could go on a survey and sign up. 1,400 kids. And we had over 45 volunteers that delivered 2 books a week to their homes.
Oh my goodness.
And all for 12 weeks, Kirby, is that what it was? 12 weeks or 14, one of those. So we gave away over 30,000 books in 12 weeks.
George Kaiser, you're a good man. I love his philanthropy. It's fantastic.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that made a huge difference. But I do want to say that we would not be where we are without the Ed Darby Foundation. And it's a small, well, it's really not small, but it's a very private, and people don't know about them, foundation.
Super under the radar.
Under the radar. And we started together. Like they were our first donors, and we are like family now. And I think that the giving heart in our community is just amazing. And we just continue to grow. We have the Schusterman Foundation. We've got George Kaiser. We've got the Darbys. I mean, I could go on and on, but the giving is there because they see the results, and they know what books can do and how books can change the lives of children.
So much goodness in this interview. I mean, I'm just sitting here with just a grateful heart for the way that you were able to layer this onto your life. It's clearly more than a job to you both, and I feel so much passion and enthusiasm and love every time that you all open your mouth, the looks on your faces, and I just think it's fantastic. And I am so sad that I have to ask our last question, but Shotts and Kirby have given up their lunch, so no steak fingers dunked into mashed potatoes. That was my favorite elementary school lunch, to be with us. Thank you guys, and I know you need to get back to your classes, but we like to ask all of our guests, what's one good thing, one good piece of advice that you could offer to our community today? What is something that you've maybe learned from this experience, or something that the average person who's listening right now could take away from this conversation? Let's start with Shotts. Oh, Kirby.
Kirby raised her
Kirby,
hand.
go. Kirby's
the
ready.
resident enthusiast.
Kirby,
You gotta
the
go watch this on
purple-haired
YouTube.
librarian who is
Kirby's-
amazing and darling. You need to go on YouTube and see Kirby's hair. It's amazing. Go, Kirby.
And the enthusiasm level. Yes.
Well, Shotts did kind of touch on this already when she was talking about starting, the nonprofit and following your passion. But this is another, I love that your question is, what's the one thing? Because like, we kind of talk about this a lot between the two of us and in our organization, is like, especially right now, and a lot of the times, like, the world is so heavy. And things look so daunting and so scary. And there is like so much that you're like, we have to solve this problem, and we have to give to this thing, and we have to fundraise for this thing, and we have to fix this, and we have to save. And like, our kids are in poverty, and we have to feed them, and we have to, like, there's so many things. And it's like, we can't do everything today, but there is this one thing we can do. And this one thing is so simple. So like, our one thing is we can go to a kid and give them a book. And Becky, I love that you talked about worldview, because that's one of our biggest wise in doing this is like, not only are readers the smartest people in the room, but readers, in my opinion, are the most empathetic, compassionate people in the room, because they have met so many people through books, and they have experienced so many cultures through books, and they have seen so many plights through books. And because of that, they can empathize, and we can see the pain or help and the desire to go save the world. And we're not just giving a kid a book, but we're giving them a window to that worldview of like, you can help others. This is what other people and animals and the environment, like, this is what they're going through. And here's how we can make it better, not harder for them. So you can't solve everything, but there is one thing that all of us can solve. And for us, it's handing a kid a book. And for every single person out there, we have a heart for, you know, rescuing a puppy, or we have a heart for feeding the homeless. Like, everybody has one. And so if we all just like put in a whole lot of energy into that thing that makes our heart jump for joy, then like it won't be so daunting and scary anymore.
If you had not said that, I don't think I would have connected that I give everyone who's made an impact on my life this book, which John and Julie have gotten it, The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse, because it is that The Giving Tree used to be my favorite book in the world, but then I read The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. If you have not read that, if you get that from me, that is because you have touch my life in a way that I could not begin to describe. So I didn't realize that I was kind of doing that too. And I don't mean that to sound, you know, self-aggrandizing, but I'm saying what a simple thing that all of us could do is find someone's passion and hand it over in the form of a book, or in the form of a hug, or making a donation to a homeless shelter. If that's your passion, thank you for that reminder, Kirby. Shotts, you're last.
I can't follow that, but I'll follow up on it. I think don't assume, you know, I think the good thing is we can't assume that somebody else is going to do it. And so I think that just if you see a problem and and do something about it. And so it's like, it doesn't take a big team of people. It's just, you know, be kind. And when you see something, fix it. Try to do something one step towards it. And just that one thing that Kirby was talking about. And that's what you do. Just focus on that.
And that is why the nonprofit has to exist. You do not have to have a staff of 250 people in your foundation to go into the world and make an impact wherever you are. And that is why our company will always continue to lift up these tiny nonprofits, because what you are doing is literally changing the landscape in your little part of the world, and we thank you for it.
You guys have completely inspired me, and I want to go upstairs and read my kids a book right this second. So could you tell our listeners how to get connected with Gaining Ground and you guys? Where do y'all hang out online? And if you can point us to where you're out on the webs.
We have a Gaining Ground Facebook page. You can find us, Gaining Ground Literacy. You can also find us at Gaining Ground Literacy on Instagram. You can go to our website, gaininggroundliteracy.org. There's a volunteer page on there. If you're local, you can sign up to do all of these magical fun things with us, or carry heavy boxes of books.
I want to go deliver books in Oklahoma City. If you move out here, I want to go deliver books. That would be hilarious.
You can do it, Becky. I think that's the moral of the story.
The one thing.
You can do that.
One thing.
Awesome.
Thank you, guys. Y'all are awesome. My goodness.
Yes, thank you for filling our cups today, and keep doing what you're doing. And we are just so appreciative. And please get on our YouTube account and look behind Kirby. She is like clearly in a librarian's office. So there are books everywhere. I think I see the Dogman series. So thank you guys. Keep doing what you're doing. We so appreciate the gifts you're putting in the world.
Thank you. This was awesome.